welcome everybody to the annual pre-town meeting for the town meeting, which will be held in a week at the high school. And so this meeting has been posted in 3 public places and on the website and emailed to interested parties. So we're conforming to the open meeting laws, and welcome everyone, but not quite standing room only yet, but pretty close. That's this one. Let me go over here. So basically this is to go through the agenda for the meeting next week and then see to what extent we can answer questions that people would have. So we will worry about electing a moderator next week. Hopefully Dan will be willing to do that. Yep, thank you, Dan. And we're also going to elect a select board member for a 3-year term, which will be me giving up my position. So I believe that Mike Tietzel is offered to stand for election, and I appreciate that. Mike, it's true. Okay. Do you have anything you want to say to the crowd now, or are you going to save it for next week?
Well, sure. Yeah, a lot of you I think know that I'm Mike Tietzel. I've lived here in town full-time for 20 years. I have recently reduced my work hours to part-time, so I feel like I have an opportunity to serve the town in a bigger way. Living here for Diane and I has been the best thing we ever did. We love this town. And I feel like an opportunity to give back is something that I would like to do. In terms of my professional background, I'm an engineer and a geologist. I'm basically a professional project manager. I've done many projects for Fortune 500 companies, cleaning up contaminated sites that have budgets similar to the town's operating budget, or in some cases much larger. So I think I have some skills that could be handy. So if you like, give me your vote tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. And we also are electing a select board member for a 1-year term to fill out Frank Severy's term. And Chad, I believe you're willing to stand for that position. We haven't scared you away in the last month? Nope.
Not so far.
Not so far? All right. Anything you want to say?
Not really. If I happen to get voted in, I'll continue on for the year. Otherwise, if someone else wants to step up, have at it.
He's lucky enough to have had his feet get wet a little bit before he decides to run permanently.
Right. That's good. Thank you. Thank you. We will be electing a town clerk for a 3-year term, and I'm hoping that you'll be.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Good. No, I don't want to give you away. And a town treasurer for a 3-year term.
Correct.
Yeah. So we haven't scared you away yet. That's good. And a lister for a 3-year term. I mean, whose position is?
Carolyn, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess we'll see about that next week.
I haven't heard that it was that she wasn't running.
Yeah.
Actually, Robert, do you know?
She hasn't sent to me.
All right. Okay. To be continued. Then we'll be electing a collector of delinquent taxes for a 1-year term, which has been Becky. And
She will not be.
she will not be running again.
Nope.
So that is a position that is open. Has anyone stepped up that's interested in that?
It used to be a position that was in the town, so Kristen will probably take that position on, or seek that position.
Okay, cool. And we've got a library trustee for a 5-year term. Is anyone here from the library that can give information on that? No, I guess that's to be,
Tony Goopy was, it was his term, and he will not be running.
so I'll be looking for a new trustee for the library.
And
No, I-
Vincent Martinez is also
He's filling
going to be
in the
around. He's
1 year.
appointed now.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, so it's good we're doing this a week earlier, so anyone that is really desiring for some action can step up and make their speech next week. We're looking for a trustee of public funds for a 3-year term. Who's,
Sandy's, yeah.
I'm going to resign, because I think it's my term that's up. And I've been on that board for 25 years or some ridiculous amount of time. So I've asked Linda Crosby, who has lots of financial background, and I think she's going to run for it.
okay, great. Okay. And a cemetery commissioner for a 5-year term. Nancy?
Marv Harvey has decided that he's going to step down. And we have asked Ray Harvey if he would be interested in stepping up.
Yeah. That's a
How do you
yes from
feel
me.
about that, Ray?
Yeah. Thank you. All right, then we're going to ask the voters to authorize the treasurer to collect the current taxes pursuant to 32 VSA 4791. And we are going to ask the voters if they will continue to authorize payment of the real taxes in 4 installments, being due August 15th, 2025, November 17th, 2025, February 17th, 2026, and Friday, May 15th on 2026. By physical delivery to the tax collector before 4 p.m. on those dates, with postmarks not accepted as proof of delivery. So that's pretty much, that's the way it's been going so far. So we'll, if the voters approve that, we'll continue in that vein. And we're next, Article 5, we're going to ask the voters to authorize total highway and general fund expenditures of $1,572,988, of which $1,227,915 will be raised by taxes. And we're going to be asking the voters to appropriate $52,333 towards operating expenses of the Rochester Public Library, which has been an annual
That's 52,313.
52,313. What did I say?
I think 332.
Oh, okay, 52,313. It's in your town reports, you'll know. Yeah. Any questions so far? I'm kind of moving through this pretty quick, but I guess we'll all get to it. Article 7 is, shall the voters appropriate $21,420 to continue funding recycling with North Star Rubbish Removal LLC from July 1, 2025 through June 30th, 2026. So that's the cost for the recycling that is free to the town, and then trash is pay by bag while you're there. And that is, did that go up from last year? Is that,
It's level funded.
that's level funded from last year? Yeah.
Cost per bag will be going up
Cost per
for
bag's going up.
the
yeah.
users.
Yeah. Article 8 is, shall the voters approve the transfer of any remaining fiscal year 26 fire department budgeted funds to the fire department equipment reserve fund? As we're continue to try and put money in reserve funds to work towards future purchases. And Article 9 is, shall the voters approve of the transfer of any remaining FY26 skate space budgeted funds to the skate space reserve fund. You don't have a number in what that is?
No, actually, we don't right now because we're waiting to pay the last payment to the contractor. So
Okay.
I don't have a number on that yet.
All right.
It
All right.
won't be a lot though.
Okay. Article 10, shall the voters support the White River Headwaters pilot project to create and leave our kids a prosperous, deep topsoil valley that is safe from flooding, led by participating farmers, loggers, and other community members, and supported by Land Care Cooperative and Land Web. Is Abe or anyone here that works with him
Abe
here
is
to
online,
speak
yep.
on that?
You want to unmute Abe?
I'm here. My audio is coming through.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. How quickly could I summarize? The project is to say that being from Rochester and having North Hollow Farm and Wake Robin Farm as part of our land care cooperative, a farmer cooperative, and doing all the work we've done over the years to improve soil health and increase infiltration. And we got to talking, and it seemed like Rochester was a real good place to do some work to increase the infiltration of rainfall so that next time we have a big rainstorm, it doesn't cause as much damage. And one example is, while we do a lot of different kinds of work, one thing we do on pastures and grasslands is we put down the minerals that are missing, and we bring in deep-rooted plant seed, and we use a tool that our co-op invented called the rip sower, which has been shown by USDA research when done on the contour to increase infiltration, to double infiltration, to cut runoff in half. So these are examples, and the work that where we would be doing this would be all over the place, but as examples in the Brook Street, Brook Catchment, and Marsh Brook, to again soak in the water. So there's a lot more to it, but there's doing the work on the land with the farmers in the valley, and then there's doing the science. And what we're looking for is support from the community to secure the watershed, if you will, and reduce the risk of flooding, drought, wildfire, and other things.
So to be clear, you're not asking for money from the town. You're just asking for a vote of support that the town is approves of your project.
We're looking for a vote of support and for the town people to work with the farmers doing the work. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions for
Thank you.
Abe? Nope. I'm sure we'll repeat that next week. Article 11 is, shall the voters vote to appropriate the following sums as requested by these community agencies? You've got the Central Vermont Council on Aging for $1,500, Clara Martin Center for $1,033, Green Up Vermont for $50, Orange County Parent Child Center for $150, Quintown Senior Center for $4,925.50, Safe Line Incorporated for $125, Tri-Valley Transport, formerly Stagecoach, for $650, Vermont Visiting Nurse Association for $2,400, the White River Partnership for $437.50, and Women Safe for $125 for a total of $11,396. And then to transact any other legal and proper business to be brought before said meeting. So that's the agenda for next week's meeting, and I guess open it up to any questions. Yeah, John?
Can I ask why we've cut those allotments in half, most of them?
Most of those allotments cut in half in an effort to keep the budget and manage what was already a significant increase. So
Okay, but those are for, making our area cleaner, helping our elders, things like that. We cut that budget. Where do we put that money?
into the rest of the budget. Yeah, the rest of the budget.
Okay. But you're asking us to put a pet project here in town.
Pet project?
Mm-hmm.
You're speaking of the school
High school,
project,
yeah.
I presume? Yeah. Call that a pet project?
I do.
Yeah, you do, okay.
Because we voted yes as far as buying the high school.
Right?
But I've seen many people now that say they voted to get it off the hands of Stockbridge, not to do anything with it. And clearly, you told us that the majority rules, and that's correct. The majority rules, that is the rule. I'm not a public speaker, so my voice is gonna be very shaky tonight. I, Julie Smith, Town Clerk of Rochester, Vermont, hereby certify that the following votes were cast in this district regarding 2024 general election question. Shall the voters of Rochester, Vermont authorize the purchase of the former high school for $1? A lot of people voted yes on that. 743 people voted. 520 of those people said yes. 165 said no. 58 were blank. I came to a meeting before because I had 17 questions asked to me by people. I'm not a public person in any way, but they came to me because of the dog bite I dealt with for 4 months. Figure that out. So I came here, I asked those questions, and I got responses. Those responses made me ask more questions. And somebody out here one time during that meeting told me to do research. There's my research. I put up a petition because I was getting a lot of stings. You know, a little beehive starts stinging you. I'm allergic to bees, mind you. So I put up a petition. I asked a couple of stores if they'd mind me putting it there. All of a sudden, I got some kickback on that. Somebody asked me what the best way to find out what your people really want. I told them, go door to door. I work, I have a family of 5, I volunteer a lot. As a matter of fact, the transportation I spoke about before, I'm helping a lot of people out with transportation because they can't get to here, just right here in town. So as I do my research, this is gonna do nothing but cost this town a lot of money. And in 5 years, we're just gonna turn it over. Is it gonna be for fair market value? Plus whatever expenses and other stuff is involved in that? Okay, I went door to door in my little amount of time that I had, even tonight, just before I came here. Out of all of the signatures that I have on my petition that I put out, I don't have it on me, Sheila. 2 people told me they would not sign my petition because of backlash in the town. That's fine. I understand that. I totally understand that. 1 person told me they don't give a shit what happens in this town. Because the taxes in this town are so expensive, they're moving out and they're my age. I'm 45, just to tell you. And the other person said they want to see what happens tonight before they sign my petition. You never put this out to vote to the townspeople. The townspeople should have had a right to vote on what we do with this building. End of story, cut, dry, done. You assumed that because we voted yes, that means you can go and put this committee together that's been working on this for 5 years. I understand, and you put many hard time work into it. I understand how projects work. But the townspeople did not all agree on the repurposing of it. That said yes. I have 25 people, and I'm probably sure I'm gonna get some more tonight, on this petition saying that your purchase needs to stop the way you believe you can do this purchase. Because that's not what we voted for. We voted for you to purchase it, not purchase it and repurpose it. So if anybody else would like to take on the time to speak on that, feel free.
In the back there? Yeah.
My question is, Ann Jeanette Lemack. My question is, because the town report has already come out and all the information that's in there, in order to, like, if we wanted to take the high school piece out and vote on that separately, can that be done, or does that have to be voted on first in order to do that now? Because the report came out.
Oh, I believe at the town meeting, there could be a move from the floor to to modify the amount that we're voting on by that. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Robert?
Robert Mayer, I might point out that you can modify the amount that the town can collect, but the decision is still up to the select board on how that money is spent. You know, that's.
So you can't just take out one specific thing.
You can't line
You
item.
can change the amount.
You can't line item. All you can do is change the overall amount, and then the select board will still decide where to spend it. And you know, whenever you vote on a budget is the best guess of what you're going to spend. Things change over the year, change. You know, how much you have to spend on roads, what sort of things come up. We end up with surpluses. I mean, we end up with extra money sometimes. So that's just showing that the budget is the best guess. So you can change the amount, but still it's up to these guys how to spend it.
Diane?
Yes. Diane Teasel, question and a comment. The first question goes to the select board. On the RHS repurposing project website, it states, if the taxpayers of Rochester vote to acquire the building, which they have, the select board has within its power to decide what will happen. They can unilaterally decide or ask the voters to help with a final solution. My question to the select board is, what is your plan, select board? Will the three of you decide, or will you ask the voters to help with a final solution? That's my question. My comment is, the Rochester 2020 census data, population 1,099, median age 64.6, poverty rate 14.55%, higher than the national average of 12.5. 2023 median household income, $70,244. Total households, 735. Medicaid population, 33.1%. Based on the demographics of the town, can the entire community afford this project? I don't expect an answer tonight, but I think that's a question for the entire community. Should the select board, based on question number 1, decide we're going to be part of the final solution, or will you three decide on your own? Now, the vote was taken 3 months ago, so have you come up with a decision? Will the three of you vote on the final solution, or will you let the whole town vote on the final solution? And if you decide on the whole town, when should we expect that vote? Thank you.
Catherine, you have something you want to say?
At the November 25th Select Board meeting, when the Select Board decided on the architectural firm that's doing the design engineering, architectural and design engineering, there was a letter read aloud from Robert Gardner that asked very specifically that question, to ask to clarify the yes vote. And Dune said that they were going to pursue the repurposing proposal that's been funded by the Senator Sanders earmark in the amount of $2,329,000. And since then, we have committed donations of significantly more, $476,000 towards construction and operation, and another $774, I think. I can't read my writing.
797.
Thank you. Thank you. In rentals. So that's $490,747. I just want to say that at the juncture we are right now, and it's definitely uncertain times, not only locally, but nationally. We're all going every single day. In fact, I've given up on the headlines. I can't digest them. But we right now have a decision to make about this year's budget. We're not making a 5-year budget. We're making a 1-year budget. And that budget has been helped in terms of the high school with donations to reduce the taxpayer obligation. So really, on Monday, March 3rd, you make a decision for 1 year, and you can look at it again in a year. Because with an upgraded building, you will definitely have an improved asset. Whether you decide to market it, abandon the project, whatever, you will have an improved asset worth a lot more than it is right now. Because the Black River assessment that was done early in 2019 really pointed out all the things that this construction project is now trying to address. So you think about that. You will not have the same building flaws after this project goes on. You will have a building worth a lot more, and you might even like it. And people have said, well, what if they close the elementary school? What if the two elementary schools eventually merge? I mean, there's so many ifs that I can't talk about them because.
You directing this all to me?
No, but I've enjoyed our conversations. Mike.
You're sitting there looking at me.
No, actually, I'm looking at the whole thing. I'm turning around with a bit of a neck ache, so.
I thought I was under fire.
You're not under fire at all. No, I appreciate the conversations we've had because we all have concerns. We can't stand here and check all the guarantees and the certainties. Well, that's just not even possible. I don't even think the president can do that, you know? So what I'm just saying is think about the moment we are right now in time and what we're being asked to do next Monday, and that is to pass the current budget. And there are things in the budget that are out of the control of the select board too, in terms of, you know, all the other increased costs, talk about, you know, healthcare premiums and so forth. We have a load to bear. But if we as Vermonters remember that we are trying to take care of each other, I believe we are going to get through this, no matter where we are on the economic scale. If we work together, if we listen to each other, which is really important, I think we can make a success one way or the other.
So but back to the question that Diane asked about, you know, is the select board going to make a decision, or are we going to put it up to a vote? You know, it's, I don't know, good question.
Well, number one, we weren't required to bring it to a vote at all. As the select board, we had the power to purchase the building with our own decision, but we decided years ago that we would not make that decision on our own, that we would bring it to a vote. So that's what we did. We held true to that promise, and the vote was overwhelmingly for yes. As for repurposing the building, a plan has already been accepted and is committed. There are funds committed to that particular type of project. So going ahead with the community center, the hub, was already decided quite a long time ago.
So just for clarification, it was a unilateral decision, not a town vote, correct?
For the repurposing or
No,
purchasing?
For what was said on the website. They can unilaterally decide or ask the voters to help with a final solution.
Right, it was
a unilateral decision, just for clarification.
it's up to us to make that decision.
Yeah.
We weren't required.
Right,
to bring
I
it
just
to a
want to
vote.
make sure that I understand
On
that
other-
it was a
Yeah.
Other
unilateral
front,
and not a
yeah.
vote of the town.
Yeah. There's hand back there first, and then you're up. Sandy?
I just have a question mainly for Catherine. How absolutely sure are we of getting Bernie's earmark?
That's a good question, and a question that I brought directly to USDA more than once in the past several weeks. And I was told, the first is like, we're waiting to see what everything is going on. And then about 2 weeks ago on a Tuesday, Rebecca Schrader from RD said the funding freeze will not be affecting the CDS money. I was told prior to the freeze that our money had already passed into the accounts of USDA. but that's still, when looking at other projects, we weren't sure. And then I got that information, and so that's what I can convey to you, and I haven't heard anything since.
Thank you.
Rob had a question and then back to you.
And I have a hand on Zoom.
You got a hand on Zoom.
So I have a lot to say. I'm willing to, we have simple questions all, but my name was taken in vain earlier.
Okay. You want to
I'm just curious, so it said in there, like, the earmark was for, I may be wrong, like $2 million or some from Bernie, right?
Yeah.
But the town,
2,329.
and the town had to match that amount, so we have to come up with 2 million also?
No, the match is at percentages. Because of where the building is located, we had a lower match. And we've already really met that match because we were told that all of our pre-construction expenses would go towards that match. But the bottom line is, match or not, and this is of the most recent conversation that Vic and I had with Alex Gauthier of the USDA, who is now on a paternity leave, that regardless of the match, you still have to have a fully funded project. So we're looking for the 3.5 to start construction.
Million.
And then me, someone's going.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Mary, if you want to unmute, you can go ahead.
I am unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
This is Mary Frattini. I just wanted to make a comment on the process. So my understanding, based on the town meeting discussion last year, and then the vote that we took in November, was that the process for the high school was the vote was an up or down to purchase the building, which we did, and 2/3 of the people who voted to purchase the building. And then the select board has very conscientiously, in my point of view, been available to the citizens of Rochester at every select board meeting since November, and has addressed the high school, I believe, at almost every meeting. So I would really push back against the phrasing of the select board having unilaterally decided anything, given how open our select board meetings are to public comment. So just my comment would just be that the process, I thought, has been very clear and very professionally handled by the select board. And I know that some of them are leaving and we have some new people coming on. And so thank you for what you've done. And I hope the people who are running serve similarly. So thanks very much.
Thank you. Asha?
Hi, Asha LaBeija Kennett. Rob, well, I'm not going to address anyone individually. Mike's like, I might harp on Rob a little bit, but Rob and I go way back, so it's totally fine.
You can look at me.
All right. Vic and Catherine have written these multiple responses, and a lot of the questions, again, these are great questions, and they have come up many times, and they are all answered many times. But I think this thing that keeps coming up is that, how can we pay for this project? But we're not asking the town to pay for the project. We're asking the taxpayers to put in that money for operational costs. That is not the construction. That is not the repurposing. We're already paying for operational costs in the school budget. This is not something completely and totally new. The Rochester taxpayers are not paying for the lumber and the wood and the windows. They're paying for operational costs. Okay, so that's one.
What does that mean?
Which is now all us, not just Stockbridge and Rochester.
Right, it's our building. Stockbridge doesn't live here.
But the repurposing should have gone through all of us townspeople to decide on.
So I'm getting there, and can you please let me talk though? Thank you. So another piece of it is that my brother lives in Boston, and he reads Front Porch Forum. He has since 2020, and he's like, "What? Why is all of a sudden this happening? Okay, this anger and everything." And I would like to bring up my good friend Rob Gardner because we all know this project, like John said, has been around since 2019. Okay, Envision Rochester had these meetings in 2019, folks.
The board's
okay?
still on the wall.
Yeah. 2019. Okay, I was at one of them. I even had my picture in the paper. It would be exciting. But then I have kids. I have job. I have multiple volunteer things I do. So I couldn't go to all the projects and all the meetings. But Rob, on Facebook, on multiple forums, in June 2020. So this was a year after.
Are you a lawyer?
I'm not. Was asked, because people were like, what is going on? It's been 2 years since the high school closed. Why hasn't anything been done? So Rob wrote this nice thing explaining what was doing. He said, in February, at an Envision Rochester workshop, a committee to explore the future of Rochester High School building was formed with considerable interest among participants. Committee formally presented their intentions to the Rochester Stockbridge School Board and the Select Board, receiving recognition and support from both bodies. Okay, so this was public information back then. And then it said through COVID, the team has started meeting again, exploring options for the town of Rochester to acquire the building on the Rochester campus. A number of ideas have been examined, seeking to reimagine the campus to serve our students, our community, and to use this important asset for the economic benefit of the town. The team is currently working on developing a preliminary plan, including suggestions and input from the residents as we move forward. And he finishes, I strongly feel that a genuine effort is in motion to constructively explore the options for the high school. Now, I'm putting you on the spot only because it was so beautifully worded, and also because it's emphasizing the point, this wasn't some secret elite community. This isn't where the elite meet, where there's like secret committee of the elite of Rochester who had no awareness of what's going on in our town. These were public meetings, and in fact, after those public meetings, because I kind of went through later and was like, how many meetings have we had? This group of people, let's see, we had 11 public meetings between 2019 and 2023. Between 2021 and 2023, more than 30 articles were in the Herald, including the progress. Front Porch Forum had over 14 event posts during these 2 years, 2021, so this is way back, okay? More than 20 posts of discussion. Discussions on Facebook began in 2020, thanks to Rob Gardner. On multiple pages continued for years. So we listened to people. We spent 8 years talking to people. And I know that you said you went door to door, but we've been doing this for 8, and I say we now because I'm part of the committee and I'm very proud of that. But there are a lot of people who are not on the committee, but who have been helpful and part of it. I mean, and we've sent questionnaires to families with young kids asking for their needs. We talk to Park House residents when they're shopping at the farmers markets. We talk to newcomers at the Hey Neighbor events. We talk to lifelong residents over coffee at the Skip Mart, right? We had multiple booths at harvest fairs where everyone had opportunities to come and discuss. We talk to the teens and tweens that are at the skate space every day before school and after school. We talk to their parents at the library when Maya does her events. We are everywhere talking to everyone. And so we've heard the concerns, we've heard the questions, and we've worked for, well, I haven't worked for 8 years, but I say we have worked for 8 years to hear everyone's. And that's why when you look at the schematic of this plan, it really is a community effort. Just like Rob said, they explored all the options. And he said it 5 years ago. So 5 years ago, he was confident that this committee was exploring all the options.
He was on the committee.
He was. And I just want to close with when we cut the ribbon to this project, when it is successful, I hope the people who are the loudest opposers are there. And they will be welcomed with open arms, and we will encourage them to use facilities because that's the kind of community we are, where our opinions matter, and we do what's best for each other. So thank you. That's all.
Hey, Rob.
We gotta give Rob his time.
Well, I had a really brief, snappy thing I was going to do before I was attacked from all sides. So, I may have to. My name is Rob Gardner. This may take more than 3 minutes because I now have to kind of justify what I just said, and God bless you. So first of all, I was on that faraway committee on Envision Rochester. I thought doing some of those high schools really important. I was on this committee, the repurposing committee, and I quit it. And I quit that committee because it was clear to me that this committee had already made up its mind what to do, way back when. And I was in a meeting, and I brought up the business of housing, which we really do need, and I was shut down. I'm telling you, I was shut down. And I said to the individual who's not a Rochester resident, why did you do it? What's this about? And he said, I have no idea. I'll have to talk to you about it later. I never heard back. But it was very clear that this committee had taken the ideas of the long ago Envision Rochester, held on to it, taken the ball, run forward with it without letting other air come into the room, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. Now, I was on the study committee with the school board and I was in the room when they decided to close the high school during the merger. I was there. We were forced into that by the state. Amy Wilt pulled this out of her hat at the very last minute to save the merger. Very smart. And nobody knew at that time, as nobody knew in the early meetings, what the condition of that building was. Nobody knew. So when we closed the building, nobody thought, oh my God, $3 million. Nobody thought that. Nobody knew. Nobody knew. So when, in moving forward, I was on the committee of the school board. I'm sorry to make this so long. On the committee with the joint school board to investigate the engineer's report on the cost of fixing the building. When we read that report and saw how bad the condition was of the building and saw the millions of dollars, the committee just devolved and Stockbridge went crazy. There was shouting arguments. I had somebody from Stockbridge screaming at me in a parking lot like a drunken boyfriend in a bar fight kind of thing. I mean, that was crazy. And we wrote these reports. There were opposing reports. They didn't release any of them because the fact that the money was so great was so shocking to everybody. So I've been riding this horse for a long time, and I'm sort of a loud person, and I've been sending emails to these guys, so my tracks are not hidden.
Long email.
When Catherine brought my name up, I had asked that question, you guys may recall, several times, but the select board was split. Frank didn't want this.
Right.
Frank felt so fiercely about this that he quit.
That's that same meeting.
So this is not a lightweight. People have been arguing about this for a long time. Now, I want to say, first of all, I don't agree with this project for a whole lot of reasons. I won't take your whole night up with. But there's no good guys and bad guys in this. Both of these people are my personal friends. We did went through COVID together. Catherine has personally helped me on several occasions, personally helped me. So the men and women who worked on this committee worked very hard for years in the true belief that this was for the benefit of the town, in the true good faith belief that this is in the best interest of the town. But in their enthusiasm, they have tended to communicate to the public about this project as if it were a feel-good community project like the 4th of July parade and picnic or a players event or something like that, instead of a municipal project that wants to spend public money. The minute you're putting your hand in the taxpayer's pocket, you have a whole different set of responsibilities to communicate what's true, what the costs are, what the risks are. This is very serious responsibility. I love Catherine, and she's a person of huge heart. But I'm afraid that the belief in the goodness of this is just getting in the way of the bad news. And one of the things that has happened is, in a communication strategy, as you might call it, is a way to let people know what's going on with the project. Good news was put in the foreground, bad news was kept in the background, repeatedly. They took on as if they were promoting something, as if they were selling something, instead of really making the community aware of what could go wrong, what the risks were. I think that's a big mistake. A good example of that is in the town report. We have a massive, dense, 2-page essay on all the achievements of the committee, and nowhere in it does it say, here's how much I'm going to take out of your pocket to pay for this $50,000 thing. It doesn't say that in there. We have all kinds of other information, but not that. Now, elsewhere, there's been a complicated formula that says if you have a $200,000 house, you pay $105. It doesn't say, and $100, you can think, well, like I give the fire department $100. $100 isn't that much, but it's actually $500. We're talking about $500. Now, are we so quick to write a $500 check? But we're not saying is gonna cost you $500 over 5 years. We're not talking about how great the risks are. And they're real risks. These are real risks. This town can't afford risks this big. I was on the budget committee for 2.5 years under the tutelage of the wise Nancy Woolley here. And I'm telling you, we can't afford this stuff. We can't afford this stuff. Now, when I wrote my note on Front Porch Forum about, and just said this is not something we need, or do we need it, Vic wrote quite a long list of things about, which is basically a promotional list, about all the great things that we could have that we don't need. I believe we need a sidewalk in front of my house. When I see these people trudging up 100 with their, and I think, geez, we need a sidewalk in front of Rob Gardner's house. We need the Rob Gardner Memorial Sidewalk, but we don't really need that. We can get along without the Rob Gardner sidewalk. So there's a big difference between needs and desires. It'd be great to have a lot of these things down there. We don't really need it.
You got another paper on the floor, Rob.
That's the long word.
Oh, okay.
So a big turning point in the road in this whole thing is, do you demolish the building or do you repurpose it? Now, this committee, from the very early days of the dinosaur, when this started, wanted to save that building. They called themselves the repurposing committee. They wanted to save that building from decay and destruction. As a result, when it came time to examine the possibility of demolition, which is as Frank knew, a common sense decision. If you demolish that building and do something with the property, you are not paying on $100,000 a year, whatever it is, to maintain it. You're not. That goes away. It's a common sense decision. However, you can't do that for free.
No, you can't.
So a bid was asked for.
Yeah.
Of $1.5 million, I think.
1.74.
There you go. And no other bid was asked for. Nobody got a line item examination. I talked to the guy who made that bid, and he just called some contractors up in the envelope and wrote it down. There was no analytical work done on that. We don't know whether there's cheaper ways to do it. We don't know whether you could have left the rubble there, used it for fill. There's a million of these questions, and I'm no engineer, and I don't have the answers, but the committee did not look into it. The committee used that figure as a club to beat down any other investigation into other possibilities. And they did it in the town report. The line is in there referencing this figure as to justify doing the project. So the fact that this project was never warned, the project, and that the full, in my mind, the full spectrum of information was never really given to the town, I think is very disturbing. It's troubling, given how much money is involved, taxpayers' money. And I don't care whether it's $50,000 of operating expenses or, $2 million worth. I don't care, it's taxpayers' money. Operating expenses is still money. I think that reference to you.
Yeah.
So
there's a difference between 50,000 and 2 million, I would say.
But money is money. I mean, if somebody knocks on my door and says, "Can I have $50,000?" or "Can I have $2.5 million?" They're not getting any of that. But all I'm saying is, if you're asking for money, if you're asking for $30 from a voter, then they ought to have the position and dignity to decide whether they want to do that. That's really important. So I think what you should do is put the brakes on the thing. What's going on in Washington, and they just lost was my time out?
Getting close.
Well, let me give me the Robert Frank dispensation.
He's waiting for you to finish.
I'm winding up. So,
Is that the appropriate term? You're winding up?
I'm winding it down. I'm winding it down. Thank you. So, I think that we should put the brakes on the project. Given what's happening in Washington, what happened in Killington with that grant that they lost.
No,
I had a friend.
It's paused. It's not lost.
Well, I have a friend in Washington, in Baltimore, a woman who worked her entire adult life for AID. She spent time in Africa away from her children for AID. They fired her in 2 hours' notice. Yep. It was gone. That's happening all over America. To try to depend on any kind of federal funding in this window of time is uncertain at the best. So I think you should write a warning that's an honest warning, put it out there, give it some time, let people, and if people want to sit around and have meetings like this, God bless them, and then vote on the project, and a completely informed voter group vote on the project. That's my rant for tonight.
I'd like to, all right, I had some response to one thing you said, but please go ahead.
I'm Mary Alice Bisbee.
All right.
And I just moved here from Montpelier, where the housing issue is so intense. And the housing issue is important here too. I live at the Park House. I won't be paying any property taxes, but I did come over tonight because I hoped I would get a couple copies of the town report, because we haven't had any yet. So nobody knows what's going on over at the Park House. So anyhow, except for Carolyn. And Carolyn, I talked with her. I know her point of view. I know all about the committee and all, but I didn't know the other side. And I'm just concerned about housing. One of the reasons I moved down here was that I could find a place where I could get my meals and not have to pay $6,000 a month to go into assisted living. I like to drive my car. Yeah. I like to be independent. And the Park House is the only place in the state of Vermont where you can do this and have seniors be included. So I just wanted to say that, and I'm beginning to believe this man. I don't know who's running for the select board. I'd like to know which side the people in the select board, which whether they're for or against us. Is there any way you could tell us? No. And your name too,
welcome,
please.
Welcome to town, and thank you for coming to the meeting. Yeah.
And she needs a
June? I know, it's a great place.
June?
Yes?
It's Martha. Can I just make a very short comment, or was there someone ahead of me?
Sure, go ahead. Go ahead, Martha.
Well, I was just going to say I have a great deal of respect for Rob Gardner, but he and I don't agree on this project. The reason I voted for it is because the building itself, with the auditorium and the other things there, to me that's a very important thing to have. Our whole valley with the 5 towns, we're the only ones who have a facility such as this for meetings and theater and music and all kinds of things like that. And I would really I understand that the money issue is very important. God knows I'm not rich. But as Asha pointed out, we already have a lot of grants and things and gifts working on this. So I'm hoping and praying that we can do this, because to me, keeping that building is an important thing. Thank you.
Thank you. There is, I'm going to let some people in that haven't spoken yet on Zoom.
I've got 2 people on Zoom that have not spoken.
All right.
You want me to go?
Sure.
Okay, so if iPhone could go, I'm not sure who that is, but if you can unmute, please, and state your name.
That might be me. It might be me, Kristen.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, this is Tim McDonald. I guess my comment is that when I voted 3 months ago, I was under the impression, or we were under the impression, that what we were voting for merely was to purchase the building for $1, take it off the books of the Stockbridge Rochester Supervisory Union, because it didn't really belong in the Stockbridge portfolio. But we and many of our friends in Rochester, who we talk to regularly about this, have been under the impression, are still under the impression until right now, that we thought there was going to be a subsequent vote as to what to do with the building that we now own. So we voted to purchase the building. We were in favor of that. I felt it was the right thing to do. But I had been on the impression, as many of the friends that I associate with in town are, that then there would be a subsequent vote about what to do with it. Do we repurpose it? Do we demolish it? Do we do something in between? I did not realize, and maybe that's my fault, but I know I'm not alone. I do know there are many people that I've chatted with in the last 2 weeks who are asking, when is the vote about what we're going to do with the building? So perhaps I'm alone here, and maybe I wasn't paying enough attention. I have been to town meetings about this, though. And I'm wondering if anybody else in the audience also thought that we would have a say in what we do with this newly purchased building.
Yep, there's a couple hands raised in the room that are saying yes. Yeah.
I also have a petition with 25 names on it. That's saying the same thing.
Okay, if you're all set, Tim, then you can go ahead. Lizzie, if you'd like to unmute.
Sure, thank you. It's Lizzie Shackelford here. I think that Rob is correct about some of the uncertainty around the grants, but my understanding is that once we own the building outright, that a lot of those grants that have been in the pipeline will actually be in a position to receive. And with the vote to purchase the building for $1 from the school district, that should happen by the summer. Is it possible to kind of move forward with voting to maintain the building over the next year so that it does not fall into disrepair, and then we can make a more informed decision once we can see if those grants that are very significant, do actually come through despite what's happening in Washington. So, my suggestion would be that we continue to maintain the building, that we vote on town meeting day to do so for another year, so that we can have that option and all of those options open without risking the building's status.
I know earlier that Vic had his hand up, and I know he's spoken to the fact in previous meetings that there are multiple off-ramps in this project, that if things do not seem to be unfolding how they're projected to unfold, there's a way for the town to step out from do you want to speak on that, Vic?
I'm not sure what you mean by that.
That's what Dick Robson said at that November 25th meeting, that there were off-ramps. But you should go ahead and speak what you're going to speak to.
If I could just on a couple other things. I want to come back to the housing issue a minute ago. And everybody knows housing is a critical need. Housing is a critical need, as being indicated. And we did look at housing very seriously back several years ago. We had, even though Rob was very disappointed, and I remember that clearly, we had Andrew Winter, who was the executive director of Twin Pines Housing, come to the building, tour the building. Twin Pines Housing develops, owns, operates, manages housing, low and medium cost housing throughout Vermont and New Hampshire. He's the expert. Looked at the building and advised us, this building says nothing about housing to me. It would be financially impossible to put housing into this building. And even if you tore the building down, you couldn't get enough housing there to make it work financially. So later, and more recently, a couple of years ago now.
The floodplain regional manager.
The floodplain issue also spoke to the inability to put housing in that site.
The regional manager said, no way, no way, it'll never be.
So even if the compatible building could do that. More recently, one of the suggestions that someone had brought to us was to just tear the building down, build housing on top of the rubble, and then you'd have something above the floodplain. But that's not practical, I think, as any builder would know. You can't build on rubble.
Oh, you can. You can. Excuse me.
You just have to make sure it's crushed up enough, yes.
But it's not just, but it's concrete, it's brick, it's steel.
I'm not saying it's a great idea, I'm just saying it should be investigated. One bureaucrat's opinion doesn't necessarily set the book. Excuse me for interrupting. I'm rude.
There's also no grant money lined up for that project.
And nobody has pursued grant money options for any other idea.
Yeah.
8 years to
We've been at this for several years. Nobody, not one person, has brought another idea to this table.
Even 8 years, people.
Is a bad idea better than no idea?
We just wait. That's an opinion.
It's not as good as a good idea.
Everybody else's money and not yours.
I have a question that's maybe
Point of
confusing
order.
some people.
Point of order, can you control who's, let Vic finish before you
Can I just ask Vic a question?
Of course.
Well, if housing can't be there because it's a floodplain, how can a care center be there on the floodplain?
Because the building exists.
No one sleeps there.
Nobody's sleeping there overnight.
That's the reason.
Yeah. That's what we've been told.
We have the portion of the building that received water during Irene has undergone floodplain mitigation that has been certified as meeting FEMA standards. Where the property was in the floodway, a boundary adjustment removed the property from the floodway. So now we're eligible for HUD federal money. We were not until those two actions were taken. It was the school district that paid for the flood plain mitigation. It was the town that worked with the powers that be to do the removal. Yeah.
Well, I'll just say that it was very confusing to hear that, oh, they can't do that because of the floodplain, and now we're doing this, but it's still in the floodplain.
It's different. It's different.
Yeah.
Permitting is different depending on what you put it there,
Right.
including for demolition. It meets a higher environmental standard to demolish something than it is to develop something, and it's a lot more costly. We've been told this by Sarah Raid of Two Rivers and other state officials that we've spoken with. It's not that we didn't pursue the things that we were asked about. We did.
So, you were not quite done.
Yeah, the second thing I want to mention is, I wonder if we can all agree that we do not want to have a dilapidated, vacant building in that site. That maybe it's tear it down, maybe it's development, but I think leaving a derelict building in the middle of town next to the elementary school, I hope we can just agree to take that off the table. And it's kind of what Lizzie was speaking to, that we need to keep the building intact to do something with it until an ultimate decision is made. So I would just offer that as a suggestion.
Yeah, Mike.
So since I'm gonna run for the select board, I guess you should hear from me on this. You know, this building is, it's a tough problem. You know, it has the potential to be a financial burden on the town for a long time. It's got some controversy. I got controversy in my own house.
Ronaldo.
But I think we're extraordinarily lucky that a group of people have volunteered and worked on this problem for a period of years, putting in many, many, many hours of work evaluating what can be done that could mitigate the potential financial harm to the town. So I think we owe them a debt of gratitude for sure. And I think they've earned our trust. They, as part of this process, have developed pretty significant expertise in the issues surrounding what can be done to that property and what can't be done on that property. So I feel comfortable with moving forward under their direction, under their expertise. I think it's our best way forward, and that's where I stand on it, so you can go thumbs up or thumbs down on me.
Midge hasn't had a chance to talk yet over here, so.
Hi, everybody.
And Mike.
I was going to say pretty much what Mike said. This committee has been in the trenches for many years and has done so much digging into what this building requires to do whatever we decide to do with it. And so far to date, those thousands of hours, and I don't exaggerate, those thousands of hours hasn't cost the town anything, nothing. So that expertise that has come about over the years is from these, everybody putting in some pretty hard hours and doing a lot of research. No one else, as Vic alluded to before, when you come to an idea of, okay, let's do this, or have you thought of that, or why didn't you think of that? So many times the same questions get asked over and over again at every meeting. And then they've all been answered. And then it comes back again, how opaque we are as a committee when everything has been out there all along. And everybody's been invited in on this. There has been no discussion that's behind closed doors or in secret. And we've deliberately have gone out into the public, as has been stated, 4 years now, gathering information. What does the town want here? And overwhelmingly, it doesn't mean there aren't people who are skeptical of it or downright hate the project, but overwhelmingly, the town people have come back and said, I want to see this, I want to see that. I want to see a future of our town. Move forward, build on something that we have, build something for the future of our children. And when you talk about stalling out this program for another year or another couple years, there's going to be a couple things that will happen. One, the price of everything is going to go up. We're talking about tariffs right now. The first thing on the list is building materials. So how much has this gone up so far? So you put it up into the future more before you begin to get this emotion. Also, you've got an aging committee. There are new people in the mix, but this committee has already spent 5 solid years. How much do you want to ask of them? Is it fair to just add to the list and say, well, have you thought, okay, you've answered that question last year, but how about this year? How does it happen this year? Okay, what about that question? You answered that 3 years ago. I want to hear the answer now. And I think what Mike has to say about the fact that there comes a point that we have got to trust this committee because they have worked so damn hard to present all this information to people, not on the seat of their pants, but through the thousands of hours that they have diligently worked through all these agencies across the state to bring you the best information that they could. And yes, there are no guarantees. That's nothing new. So, when people say, come, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? What about this? This committee has thought through every single angle. And one of the things that I really have appreciated about the committee is that they have appreciated the resistance and the questions and the concerns that have come through to the committee because they want to address those. Mike, they want to address every need that you, or every concern that you have. They want to reassure you that when this project starts, and you and we all have concerns about things, but yes, we all want to make sure that we have the answers. And we, as a committee, want to provide them. We want to give you solid information with the data that we have at hand now. And it's putting it on hold for another year. There is no guarantee that half the committee is even going to be alive by then. So I would say, unless somebody wants to step forward and, join in, you should really appreciate what the work has been happening now.
Mike had his hand up, and then Dan and Chad, you had your hand up too, didn't you?
No.
No? Okay. Yeah. Mike.
Am I up?
Yeah, you're up.
All right, Mike McIntyre. I agree with the person that said that they thought the vote was just for the building, and that's just how it was written on the back of the ballot. Will the voters purchase the building? Nothing about the repurposing of it. Not a thing. And from what, I wish I'd got involved sooner, but I didn't, because I didn't figure this was ever gonna go anywhere. Because as far as I'm concerned, this is ludicrous. But anyway, that's my opinion. And I don't feel that two people should be saying, yes, we're gonna go with this repurposing. I feel it should go to the voters. And a lot of things have changed in 5 years from when they started this. And as far as she said, about other options. Nobody knew that we were going to buy the building till November 5th. So why is somebody else going to come in and make all these options? I appreciate all the work they've done on this, but I buy a lottery ticket every week, but I don't win the lottery, so hey, that's it. If the building hadn't been purchased, this project would be gone.
Yep.
that dynamic.
Right.
And I don't think just because it was 520 to 165, the vote, that gives the select board the right to make the decision what happens to the building. I think it should go out to vote, plain and simple. Two people speaking for all the voters, that ain't right. Especially when it's set on the ballot to purchase the school building. So I don't feel that's right. And I think any big project, it ought to go out to bid, not just one person. And I've got something I want to read. And it'll only take me a minute. All right. I got a message.
A Gardner minute or a McIntyre minute?
McIntyre minute.
It's my turn.
I'm not good at speaking. Better.
He's coming after me now.
I gotta find it here.
Do you want me to send it to
Can I
you?
just say that?
I don't have to look it up.
Do you want me to send it to you?
No, you can look on your phone if you want, because you're the one who told me.
Yeah, I know that.
That I was asked if I was aware that concrete and bricks are hazardous material. I called Tim Hubbard from Hubbard Brothers Transfer and Recycling. And I said to him, Tim, is concrete and bricks hazardous material? No.
No.
Only if it's painted.
Correct.
So I told him, you told me it was hazardous material.
In circumstances, it's recyclable, so it has to be hauled away.
Plus, he added, you can use bricks and concrete for fill. It's not hazardous material. Well, I kind of tend to believe him because they've been in business a long time and they deal with the state every day. So I kind of believe him. And then I get a message from him and he said, oh, can I bid on this? I said, well, if you really want to, I said, can I bring it up at the select board meeting? He said, sure, bring it up. I sent him 2 pictures and I told him the square footage of it. And this isn't an estimate, this is just what he said out of his head. He said, I'm thinking $500,000.
It's for demolishing the building?
Yes.
And carrying it away or leaving it in place?
Taking it away.
With the asbestos.
They've got trucks, they got 40-yard roll-offs, they got excavators, everything. So I'm guessing, even if you went for the 0.74 million, there's $1 million that ain't gonna come out. So I think this really ought to be brought up to bid. He'd like to come look at the building.
Where are we going to get the 500,000 from?
Huh?
Where are we going to get the 500,000 from?
Well, this committee has raised so much money.
Yeah, take their money.
They don't give grants to demolish
What I'm
buildings.
saying is, that's a big difference between 1.74 million and maybe say 0.74.
And there's a big difference between developing a 33,000 square building that has good bones and intrinsic value in labor and materials to be something, as opposed to spending $500,000 to tear it down.
Yeah, but you know something? You could put that $3 million in that and this whole thing could just fail. Then we gotta tear it down and we got $3 million in it.
I gotta say, people go through open heart surgery at a cost of a huge amount of money and they don't survive another month.
Right.
It's about your perspective, really. It's about perspective, and that's up to the individuals. Do you have a look this way or do you have a look that way? And according to the language of the merger agreement, the select board never had to put it to a vote. They could have just made this. I don't write the rules that make our governance in Vermont.
Right.
But that was the language in the merger, and we reminded that of the select board, and they said, no, we need to get, mandate from the town. So I understood that because I was also disappointed that ballot didn't have the development piece on it. It would have been great clarity for everybody.
It should have been.
Yes. But my understanding of that simple yes, no was because there was more interest in gaining control over the future of the building. We specifically asked the superintendent, if we get a no vote, what will the school do? He said, we're gonna just board it up.
Yeah.
So there you go. I mean, and that's out of Rochester, the town's decision-making process. So the yes vote is at least putting it back into the town of Rochester's decision. It was a Rochester-created building. They paid for it with their bonds.
Right.
44 classes graduated. It has a history.
But we should have a voice in what happens to it.
I'm not saying yes or no on that. I'm just saying.
That's what I'm saying. We should have a vote on that. It shouldn't
There
be
was
made by
so
two
much
people.
disparity and they put it out to vote for that reason, they should have put it out to vote what to do with it.
Concrete.
So Dan had his hand up, he hasn't spoken yet.
Yeah, Dan McKinley. I'm trying to understand what it might mean to pause the project. If we pause the project, we still need to spend some money to keep the building up for the next year.
Yeah.
Would that be right? So we still need money, raise money
Just
through
what's
taxes.
in the budget now, that's what that money's for.
That's what it'd take just to.
Yeah. We've
keep
not
it-
committed to anything more than what it would take for the next year to just keep the building from disintegrating by heating.
Well, we also we've just been working on submitting a CDBG grant that we need to get to that 3.5. If you just pause it for a year, God knows with the state of Vermont will even have the money to, do CDBG grants. So there could be potential harm in pausing it,
So second part of my question is, as Robert mentioned, the select board has the discretion of how to spend the budget that the town votes on. I fully expect that someone will come with an amendment saying, I would like us to reduce the budget by X amount, whatever it is that's in the budget for, because I don't think we should spend any money on the school. If an amendment like that passed, indicating that a lot of the town felt strongly that they didn't want to spend money on this, even though it's sort of needed just to keep it, the building safe, I guess. How would you all feel about that? It's sort of like, it's not a mandate, it's sort of like you hearing from the town that most of the folks are not really on board with this. How would you move forward with spending that money anyway?
Probably not. It depends on the vote, how it was voted. If it was majority rules, then we would follow majority rules. And we would have to decide, like Robert's mayor said, the budget just gets reduced by $50-something thousand. Right. And we would have to decide where that $50,000 would come out. We could decide that it comes out of the high school repurposing budget or somewhere else.
Yeah.
That would still be our discretion, correct, Robert?
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah, I think there are some challenges to putting it on hold, and I don't recommend that, but I'm just trying to see what it would look like for the townsfolk voting on this and giving you a message of whether they're really supporting it or not by that kind of an amendment. And it's going to put you in a pickle because you need to spend the money to keep the building safe and
We could cut it in half, half and half with something else,
So the last part of my question, how quickly, if there was a move to do a town vote, how quickly could that happen? In hopes of not jeopardizing any potential grants or.
Certainly not by next week.
No, after town meeting.
There's a 45-day, it'd be like every other election that we have. So it would be like a Australian ballot.
Right.
And.
Or 30-day one.
30 days.
Yeah.
And the next vote that happens in this town is the school vote. It could possibly ride on that.
One of the reasons that we had the ballot on the presidential election was to maximize the voice of the voters. That's why we did that then. And it was
Maximize the vote on.
Because it was a presidential election.
The turnout. We did not want to be accused of slipping something by the voters by having a vote in some other time. The presidential ballot was a definite, and you could have remote ballots, it's just, we did it to maximize the vote. And the vote was huge. I'm not saying that everybody who voted yes voted for development, but I think the opportunity to have that kind of turnout for the vote is beyond us now. And if it's only going to be determined by a small amount of people who, maybe it's going to be a big amount this year, who attend that Monday night meeting, that doesn't seem right either.
And the reason it was on the back of the ballot was because we got it printed by the state for free, right?
Yeah.
We didn't have to develop our own ballot and spend money. It got printed on the back for free.
Walter, you had your hand?
Yeah, my question to the people who are obviously not in favor of this project.
Me?
You're one of them. You're another one. Is this about the cost to the voter, or is this about the concept of a community center in Rochester?
You have one. You have Pierce Hall Community
I
Center.
didn't ask you. I'll give you your turn.
Can I
Are you asking me?
Well, anyone. I mean, I know
You
John.
not him.
I know John's thoughts
Yeah, come on,
already. He made them clear to me. We answered all his questions.
Okay.
Okay, we've tried to answer all your questions. If this is about $50,000, I suspect you might want to look at, if it's money, you might want to look at the budget and see that there's $116,000 in there that nobody's questioned.
If you're asking me the question, my biggest issue is the voters not having the option.
I got it.
You like my opinion?
Briefly, very briefly.
Can I please say, my deepest concern is the fact that it's in a floodplain, and I don't believe that any amount of flood mitigation, a doorstop, is going to hold back something worse than Irene. That's my biggest problem. If you said this was out of a floodplain, sure, I would give you that money. Like, if I had that money, I would give you that money. But to me, why are we trying to do this in a flood zone? Why? I wouldn't invest in that. If I
Half
had
the
money to
town
buy
is
a
still in a
building,
flood zone. That wasn't my question.
Can I answer your
It's
question?
somebody's personal issue to buy a house in a flood zone. This is a building the town is going to own.
It's a building the
Well,
town
it's
already
a town that
owns.
we're all talking about investing money in. So,
doesn't go to town.
So my answer would be that the thing that has disturbed me the most is the information. I used to be a journalist, and everything that I've heard coming out of this committee, and I love them, has too many half-truths, too many things avoided, too many
I
things.
take offense with that
Yeah,
part.
that's-
Just answer succinctly, not with your biases.
Oh, I have biases?
You have a
You think?
bias.
Look, I have a right to my opinion.
It's a
And
bias.
it's an informed opinion based on a lot of experience with this project, and I'm entitled to it. I've listened carefully to what the information they put out, and if you don't think I'm right, why have we got so many people in town that don't know what the story is? Why have you got people signing up petitions and they don't know what the story is? The reason is the information flow has been poor. Now, it's not because they're liars, it's not because they're bad people, it's because they love their project and they want to see it succeed. But I am not satisfied
You didn't
that the
answer my
voters of
question,
this
but that's
town
beside
have
the
been
point.
told enough information.
Thank you.
Someone on Zoom who
Thank
hasn't
you.
There's
spoken,
someone
whatever
on,
it's their
but over here,
Asha was probably the Zoom first. That's okay. I'll wait in queue.
Mine is very quick. If you notice the tone, it's very different from the people who are in support of the project are trying to be respectful. And unfortunately, there's been a lot of disrespect. Calling people liars is not respect.
I said they weren't liars.
No. Calling people, saying they are lying by saying they're giving half-truths is disrespectful. Whispering under while people are trying to talk is not respectful. So yeah, you have your opinion, but you also can't, you have to be respectful. We're all trying to be respectful. And I think Midge's point is you can disagree, that's fine, but don't disrespect the people who've done only respectful things to everyone here. We've only been respectful. And to be called liars and other things and say that we don't care and we're slipping stuff in,
Wait.
that's rude.
If I've offended anybody here, from my heart, I'm sorry. I don't mean to be disrespectful. I believe powerfully, as she does, as Catherine does. I feel powerfully about this subject. If I've overstepped my bounds, if I've been rude, from my heart, I apologize.
Okay.
But I have an opinion, I'm letting you know.
Okay. All right.
Okay, we need to have the floor back.
Yeah. You're on.
You want to do the one Zoom one first or me first?
No, you go first.
Okay. Well, so I was hoping to go last. So here's my brief piece on this is, please, for the love of everything good, just go vote. We have a vote on Monday. You get to vote on the budget. The only thing that's in the budget is the town budget, which does include about $50,000 and change for this project. That is basically what Lizzie was talking about. It doesn't commit you to take the grant or do the redevelopment, though that decision has been worked on by the select board and the committee for quite a while. So you're late to the party saying you want to do something different. I appreciate doing good organizing, going out and get people to sign. You got 25 signatures on a petition. We had 100 and some people vote against buying the building on the vote. When you show up on Monday and we vote on the budget, if the budget passes, respect the vote and respect the fact that the select board, which is elected, is going to keep working on the project to redevelop the building because now we own the building. That's what we voted on.
Not yet.
Well, not yet. We haven't fully taken control of it. But that was what the vote was for, right? Was to buy the building. And so now it's our problem as a town of Rochester. All that we're asking for this year is to approve the budget, which includes $50,000 to keep the school heated enough that people can go in there and do all the free labor they've been doing for weeks and weeks, cleaning out the school building, bringing in folks to help haul away all the trash that was inside, offering the community heirlooms back to the town of Rochester for people to take and buy and have fun with and save for future posterity. Like all that stuff is happening for free out of the goodness of the hearts of the select board and the committee and other volunteers in town. So show up on Monday and just vote on the budget. Don't vote on all your feelings about everything about whether the town is living or dying or growing or shrinking or whatever, because that's not what you're voting on. Just go vote on Monday, and then whatever happens on Monday, the select board will hear you. They'll all be there. And the new select board members who are coming in will all be there and they'll hear you. And they've all heard you here. But if you get outvoted, leave it alone, because you got outvoted. That's it.
Thank you.
A Zoom person.
So I have a Zoom person with their hand up, and thank you for raising your hand. If you can unmute yourself. It says iPad, so I'm not sure who it is.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, can you state your name, please?
Yes, it's Larry and Linda Creech from West Hill Road. I have a question for Ms. Shankman. Because she's an integral part of this whole process. We aren't against or for it. We haven't made up our mind yet. But my real question is, and some of this was brought up previous, and it took us a long time to figure out how to get in touch with you guys, but we finally did. I am very nervous about the federal government and funding for projects like this. So does anybody know for sure that that money coming from Bernie Sanders is going to happen? Do we have some assurance from the state?
You must have been a little late getting on. I think you said you had some trouble. So I did answer that question earlier. So the earmark that through Senator Sanders that was passed into law on March 9th, 2024, is through the USDA Rural Development Community Facilities Grant. It's not about housing. It's not about
DEI.
It's not about DEI. It's not about doing a health clinic. These are all other kinds of earmarked things.
Right, I understand
It was awarded based on the proposal that we submitted that is being discussed this evening. Bernie Sanders really loved it, and he thought he's hoping that it would be a model for the rest of the state who are sitting there with empty school buildings due to Act 46. That's beside the point, but we appreciated his confidence in us. We also want to say at this meeting, we appreciate the confidence of those donors who have put so much, hundreds of thousands of dollars into this project because they had confidence in the town. So the town has had a huge vote of confidence from our federal government and from local people with a great generosity to give us quite a bit of money. And yes, I had the same concern. So I contacted our USDA RD representative, Rebecca Schrader, and she told me as recently as 2 weeks ago that the CDS money is not being impacted by the freeze. I understand that Killington has been impacted, but that had to do with DEI language.
Yes.
Which is, you know, it's what's going on right now. So, and if I ever hear anything contrary to what I was told 2 weeks ago, you guys are going to be the first to hear it, and it'll be all over the news.
Please let us know.
Yes, of course, because that's what we want to do, is be transparent and give information. I work full-time. A lot of other people on the committee work full-time, and we do our best, despite our full-time jobs, to work on this project and to communicate with the public. We have put out a number of surveys. One of our surveys went out to all 5 towns to really poll older adults as to what they want, and we got a tremendous response. So the results to our surveys, we have an updated child care survey going out right now that is being well responded to verify the local need for child care. Child care is a very important part of economic development, as we've learned through the pandemic. And people in this survey responded that with child care, local child care, they could return to work, and that would help their families meet the costs of this economy.
So based on everything that you've said, Ms. Shankman, you feel totally confident that this money is earmarked for the town of Rochester, and we shouldn't really, that should not be an issue with us.
As of right now.
Okay, you just asked me a question that is very difficult for me to answer, because I can't tell you in the times we're living in that I am totally confident in everything. But I do have faith. I swear to God, that's why I jumped into this project 5 years ago, and at times wondered if I was sane to jump into this project 5 years ago. But I have had a faith in it because I also have faith in this town. As Patty pointed out in our last informational on October 29th, she cited many projects that this town has undertaken where there was tremendous doubt. And the doubt finally gave way to the success of the project. And now some of those same doubters cheer what was done. And I think that is what's happening. We've overcome many obstacles. We got that earmark, much to the shock of a lot of our, agency funders, going, such a small town to get such a big grant. I mean, we are moving forward. And that's all we can do, just like we have to wake up every morning and do our best, regardless of what's going on in Washington and the national politics. We have to find a day, every day. Every day we have to find a reason to have hope and a reason to get out of bed and do what we do. And we're all lucky that we're doing that in the state of Vermont.
Well, thank you for your input, and we're hoping with you that everything comes to fruition. Thank you.
I would like to add that the tenuousness of the political situation would be a reason to not procrastinate moving forward on the project.
That's what we're told. Exactly what we were told.
Dan, you had, and then Robert.
Yeah, Dan McKinley again. I forgot to mention my first comments that I'm supportive of the project, and I really appreciate the effort that you all have put into the tremendous amount of energy and thought and communication and outreach. But we did have a conversation, maybe it was after the meeting, the information meeting, about the off-ramp idea, about if the town supports the building for the first 2, 3, 4, 5 years, are there points in there where we can say, this just may not work, but we've restored this building, we've got an asset. Are there some off-ramps that you would?
I'm assured that there have been off-ramps built in. It's a question that if I answered it according to my opinion right now, I don't want to give wrong information, but I will come to the next select board meeting to better define those off-ramps. or at the next meeting is gonna be the town vote. So we'll come to that meeting prepared to answer that question before the vote on the budget. That's okay with you?
Sure.
That'd be great.
Robert, you had a question back there? Or a statement?
Well, more of an observation. First, there's been a lot of questions of why didn't you look at this? And why didn't you look at that? Well, we have looked at a lot of things, perhaps not as thoroughly as everyone would like, but it's not as though this committee, which is all volunteers, has minions to go, that they can direct, make this so, go check this, go check that. It's all by volunteer work. And Rob, I was sorry to pile on, but I was disappointed that you left the committee because there's some answers that you didn't have and you didn't go out and find them. How many bids did you get?
How many what?
Bids on demolition did you get? Because that's what would have had to happen for the committee to go and answer those questions. Is the committee, some committee member would have had to go out and get.
My point was more to the fact that the bid was used as a club to discourage.
It was based, that was available information, and you're asking why didn't we get more available information? So at any rate, putting that aside, with the committee did not have infinite resources. It had very limited resources. We made the best of it as we could. The one other thing I'd like, this young lady has visited us from the Park House, and very thankful. That Park House was started, my wife was very integral in getting that off the ground. She was pregnant with my youngest daughter, who's now 34. And they had a lot of opposition then and a lot of doubters then. And nonetheless, that project came to fruition. Again, they had a lot of obstacles, probably not as many as this building does. I went over for years with blueprints on the kitchen table, trying to overcome, but they created the Park House, which has served this community very well ever since. And I might point out, it cost this town, a significant amount of money. You can read it in the town report every year to defer taxes for it. So, the town contributes money to projects like this and like the Park House to build community and to take care of its citizens. Thank you.
Vic, you had your hand?
Yeah, I just want to sort of echo something that Aja said, and that is the tone coming from some respondents. I think to characterize the proposal that was received for demolition as a club is not fair and is not right. It was sought with all genuine interest to find out what the heck would it cost, because we got one opinion from the Black River study. Some people thought that was too high, so we asked Jamie Canarney to find out what would it cost. And so he contacted, it's the same firm that did the energy study for the school and the town, EEI, and they came back with a proposal. It was done with all sincerity to get a number. It was not done to find a club to beat down opposition. So I just want to be clear about that.
Thank you.
The floor.
Sorry, please.
I think it's worth saying, I appreciate what Aja said about the tone of discussion. It's fair. I would think, though, that you guys would, on your side of the docket, would respect the fact that there are people of good faith with genuine concern and questions about this. And they're fair questions. Mike has fair questions. John has fair questions. I have fair questions. I have, and you'd have to admit this is true, I've been saying to you and Catherine forever to improve your communication strategy. I've been saying that over and over and over again.
True.
So one of the things that we should be operating in this town is we can have a pretty severe disagreement here, but I respect you guys. You're my friends. I respect you. I mean that. That's not, there's no bullshit in that. I really mean that. But I think there are severe communication problems here, and all these people wouldn't have questions if that weren't the case. I'm sorry if I offended you or interrupted you.
Midge over in the corner there.
Hi again. There's a couple of things that I wanted to address about the vote coming up. To maintain the school, you can decide yes or no if you want to spend the $50,000, whatever it is. But that is to keep the building at a functional state. It's built on a slab. If it isn't heated, then that slab will buckle and the building becomes a ruin. And then we're really forced into doing something with it that will cost us more, whether it be $500,000 or half to tear it down. It will cost the town a whole lot more. So at least if you vote to keep maintaining the building, then we have a little bit more time to decide, okay, what is it that the town really wants us to do? What direction do they really want us to do? Rather than that's a point where we would be forced into probably having to demolish the building because it will fall apart. And we don't have the funds to maintain the auditorium as a standalone building. That is one of the best assets this town has in many surrounding towns. Chandler is really about the closest place that has another auditorium that is, so that piece is really important to remember, that we're just asking to maintain the building through the winter so it doesn't end up in a derelict state. That's what that vote is really about. I have a question for you guys, that if in fact we're all concerned about, is this money from Sanders, is that going to come through? If it doesn't come through, if we find out after the vote it's not happening, my understanding would be that there is no project at that point. It just dissolves. We're back to having a building. I may be wrong on that, I'm not sure. But we're not looking for the town to say, okay, this is a do or die, whether the federal or the state comes through with money, the town is absolutely committed. That money will be in hand. It will be in our bank account to go ahead and move forward. If it's not there, this can't happen. So I don't see where that's a huge risk on our part or a big unknown on our part. Are we going to get stuck with this if in fact this federal money doesn't come through? I think it's my understanding it's a moot point at that stage, and then we have to go back and say, okay, let's get some other quotes on demolishing it or whatever, I don't know. But anyway, those are my couple of points.
I don't really think there are too many people that aren't willing to spend the $52,000 to keep the building heated, for this winter.
Yeah.
At least that gives us a year and 4 months to come up with a different option. Not just say, okay, this is the option we're going to go for. And I suggested the town garage down there, and I said, no, that ain't going to work. Why isn't that going to work?
To the floodplain.
Huh?
To the floodplain.
What's the difference?
To the floodplain.
Me to answer you?
Huh?
Since I'm concerned about my money,
I'm concerned about your money too.
and I'm asking you to say yes to $50,000. You're asking me to say yes to tearing down half a building as I read your writing.
Yeah.
And then rebuilding something that will hold trucks and plows and whatever.
Right.
That sounds like at least $500,000 to me.
What is it going to cost the town to go buy a piece of property if they can find it?
Well,
put the
you're
utilities in?
presupposing that magically we need a town garage.
Oh, I think that's what the state said.
It's definitely, it's
coming up.
dated.
That town garage has to be moved, the salt shed and the sand pile.
The state of Vermont would like us to move our town garage because it's so close to the river.
Yeah.
I don't believe that this, and they may someday be willing to pay for that. Agency of Natural Resources.
They may.
DEC. They may.
There's
We're
4
waiting it
acres
out.
at the Catholic Church.
Is there?
Yeah.
Right. So to
But
move.
you got a building there, you got a slab, you got the walls, if you tear the roof off, you wouldn't even have to tear the roof off.
But don't have
I'd like the
grant
floor.
money wouldn't be applicable.
Oh, I know, but I realize
Yeah,
that.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be able to get any money to move the salt shed from one end of the floodplain to the other end of the floodplain in the town.
If it's in the floodplain, I don't understand why you can have one building in the floodplain, but the other one can't be.
Because the town garage has got oils, it's got a pit, it's got a salt shed. We can't, they wouldn't allow us to move it out. They want it out of the floodplain.
Okay,
They're
so
not
if they
going to
move it
allow
in-
us to move it to the other end of the floodplain.
They
So
want
how
it
can-
out.
How can you repurpose a building in the floodplain?
Because it doesn't have a salt shed, and it doesn't have oils and pits and trucks in it. It's going to be a community center.
I thought a floodplain was a floodplain.
It is, but not for, I don't want to use the word hazardous waste, so it's not for a salt shed. They don't want that by the
What about the
river.
town garage?
They want that gone too, but they're not
Right,
gonna
why
move
can't
it to
go
the.
down- Why can't it go down there? We got the building, we got the
It's the
property.
same
It's the same
issue.
floodplain
They
as
want
where it
out of
is.
there too. They would want it out of there too. They don't want the salt, piles of salt and piles of sand. And
Right, well,
it
what
would
about
be,
just about the.
so that building is existing there, but you're not allowed to, like, putting a giant sand pile there. That basically would impact the floodway, and that's when you're not allowed to fill in a floodway, in a flood zone,
Well, I
because
had
it'll
heard
affect
that
that, yeah.
they were looking to put the salt shed and the sand pit down to Mike Mullins, Severy's pit.
Well, then you know more than we do. Because we haven't heard that.
Haven't heard that, it's thought,
So
but-
if you've done that, why couldn't the town garage go down there?
I mean, we don't own Mike Bowen's pit, so.
No, but if that was an option,
I don't know.
couldn't the town garage itself be there?
Well, I guess if Cooter wants to drive around getting salt and sand in another location on the other side of the river, isolated from where his garage would be.
What's the big point deal?
I don't know, we'd have to ask, we'd have to ask our town crew how they feel about it.
So let's move on.
Yes.
You've had your hand up for a while here.
Yes.
Oops, I'm knocking things down. I've been watching on Zoom, because I'm supposed to be home getting her ready to go to a camp really early. And I just wanted to say, I came here because I was raising my hand on there, and I wanted to make sure I could talk. Jonna Murray Sweetic on Maple Hill Road. And I just want to say, first of all, that I so appreciate the people that have put their time, their precious time when we couldn't, into this for years and years, especially Vic and Catherine. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. And they put so much hard effort into it for us, to better our community, to make it better for us, for our children, for our grandchildren. And I feel like there's two ways to look at it. We can either look at it like we're talking about the prayer cards. We can go forward or we can go back. We can be negative and we can say it's going to be a mess, it's going to be a problem, or we can think of this as an amazing asset. And all these other ideas about things to do don't involve getting the grant. This grant, assuming that we still have it, is an amazing gift that we have been granted because of the hard work of community-minded people in our town. And it's an opportunity to use that money, which won't exist. We'll be left with a building we have to tear down, they'll be derelict, and make our town so much worse. And we lose that money. To me, it's a no-brainer for the future of our town, for children's organization. She's going to camp in Bristol tomorrow. If there was a camp there, it'd be amazing. We can use that building for so many community things, for older people, for babies, for children. You know, where are we going to go vote on this subject and everything else for this town? Where are we going to vote? Next Monday, where are we going to be? In the auditorium. It's a no-brainer, folks. I'm sorry, it's just a no-brainer. We're going to be in the auditorium. Where do we go when we want to see the night before Christmas? Where do we go when we want to go to the music series that she goes to? Where do we go when we put on amazing players events?
Pierce Hall.
No, we don't go there. We go to the auditorium. It's not the same. It's not the same. It's a great place, but it's not the same. It's different. We use it for
There's a
other things.
stage, you can have town meeting there.
So everything, it's a great space. And so I feel like it's a no-brainer that we've been gifted this grant, and assuming it goes through. We can say, what if it doesn't? And it is scary times, but as long as it goes through, we can't use that money if we just let the building sit there. We're gonna have to use our money to tear it down, millions and millions of dollars to tear it down. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Is anyone else on Zoom that needs to have a hand
I
up?
do not have any hands
I
up.
don't
Oh,
think John Lambert ever got finished with what he wanted to say.
No, that's all right. You guys have already
I have a
gone over
couple
what I'll
closings.
deal with it.
I have one hand now.
Pardon?
I do have one hand now on Zoom.
A
Okay.
new one?
Yes, a new one that has not yet
And
spoken.
not yet spoken, okay.
Go ahead, Robert.
Good evening, everyone. This is a very, very actually humorous and very serious conversation. But I wanted to say that last summer there was an op-ed written in the Herald, and I was reading it, and it was so factual and logical. I decided not to see who the person wrote it was, and it was Mr. Mike McIntyre. He's probably the most pragmatic guy in the town, but I'm all about children. I'm all about music. I'm all about art. But how about if the intimidation from the state with floodplains would somebody? Two questions. One, has there been research done on who some investor, a real estate guy, like the demolition quotes, if I can buy it for $1, how much would the town sell it to me for? Has anyone thought about that?
50 million. No, I don't think that's,
It's about brokers. It's about development of commercial development.
So we put together a prospectus, 19-page prospectus describing the community, the market, the building, all this. This is in 2022. Sent it out to a list of brokers and developers. It was called a request for expressions of interest. Could you get anybody just to put their toe in the water, take interest, no commitment? 0 responses. Why? Because the building needs millions of dollars of investment. It's in a floodplain. That takes years of red tape, as we have learned from experience. So, given that versus other opportunities, it was just not very desirable for someone to invest in. So it left up, if anything was going to happen, it's going to have to be homegrown.
Can I say something?
Tim, Dean, excuse me.
Wait. Robert was not done speaking, I don't think.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Was there a follow-up question? It sounded.
Go ahead, Robert.
Well, again, just trying to put forth, if there's so much concern about the flooding, how about if all this is done, all wishes were granted, and children are playing and everything, and then a storm twice the size of Irene comes through, and everything goes down the river? What happens then?
Then we'll lean on FEMA really heavy.
FEMA will be non-existent.
Yeah, I know.
But
Okay.
Is this public comment?
He asked, is this public comment?
Is this public comment? I've heard this come up a couple times, people not being clear. The specific issue with the floodplain is if you leave the building intact, essentially, but you renovate it, you're okay. And because the building has been a school, if the stuff you do inside the building is like what a school would do, so you've got workshops and education spaces and senior center, but nothing that would be like beyond the bounds of what you could normally do in a school, like put a snow plow or a salt shed in there, for example,
For sleep.
then you're fine to redevelop the project in the floodplain. But if you knock it down and try and build something brand new, there's a whole other set of rules. And if you try and move something into the space that's like way outside of what you could do in a school type building, like put a salt shed, or if we wanted to put like a giant nuclear reactor or something in there, right? Like that would not be okay in the floodplain. And so the reason why the project works in the floodplain as it is because we're not substantially changing the footprint of the building, and we're not doing more than redeveloping what's already there. And the things that are moving into that, the daycare center, physical therapy, senior services, the workshop, all that stuff is already there, or all the efficiency stuff that they need is already in the building.
And we went through over 2 years of the RELA assessment, environmental assessment, and we cleared it. But we cleared it for the purposes of this project, not for a town garage, which would meet a whole nother kind of threshold of environmental assessment to ever even get permitted.
Dune?
Yes.
It's Martha. We have a whole select board meeting to do after this, and this has gone on for almost 2 hours. Is there a time limit? I'm not trying to knock anybody.
Well, this is an important topic, and it's,
Yes, I know.
we're going to take the time that it takes to,
We're not gonna,
hear from everyone.
we want everyone to be informed.
Yes. Yeah.
I think another point. Robert.
Yep. Yeah, you want to finish up?
The investors, and no, I need to make another public comment, maybe it's during the next section, but investors, real estate executives, and professionals decided they don't want any part to invest. Isn't that very risky? If they don't want it, why would the town want it? I don't understand.
After it's renovated, then it would be a different story about the value of the building.
Yeah.
Which is one off-ramp.
Yes, which is one
Which is
off.
one off-ramp right
Which
there.
is-
Yeah.
Okay.
In the back there.
Hi, Tara Murray Jacobs, West Young Drive. I just wanted to say that I remember during Irene being at the school and there was all kinds of food and stuff that was being distributed. I don't remember it being flooded. I helped haul out houses and people who, the house had washed off 100 and lots of stuff. And we were trapped like everybody else. And if Irene didn't wash away at the time, that was a pretty unusual flood. I can't see that we should be worried about that happening. Of course, it's possible, but I think that that's kind of like the what if thing that we can't go to. And that being said, I think people are missing the point. Like things get grandfathered. It's grandfathered being there, or the salt pit is grandfathered at the town garage, but you can't move it there. So we should take advantage of the fact that there is a building built there that already has good bones that didn't come down during Irene, and we can use it where we couldn't rebuild that later. If it is a flood, if it were a floodplain, you can't do that, but it's grandfathered. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
And with the grant, we're taking advantage of something because it's standing there. And instead of throwing away money, it's like good money after bad. We have to use money to throw it away as opposed to good money to try to bring our town forward. And I just want to say that I didn't grow up in Rochester, been around since I was 13, but grew up in Cambridge, Mass. But I would never leave Rochester because it's such a special place. And part of it is the people that make it special and the people who look forward to make things better and not, a lot of towns are going backward and not looking to make things more creative and more community, and that's what makes Rochester special. And if you don't take a risk or a leap of faith, then there's nothing going to happen. So, I mean, of course, people make mistakes. I make mistakes. Everybody does. But if you don't go take a plunge, I mean, sorry for the joke, but it's not. We're not going to go forward at all. So that's my opinion.
I want to make 2
Okay,
points.
Pat.
I want to make just 2 points that I haven't heard on the floor today, so I just want everyone listening on Zoom and here just to have all of these facts as much as possible. In your town report, under the high school building income, there's $14,797 as rental income. All of that is coming from the RSUD, the school system. They have decided that they'd like to be using the auditorium, the music room, the art room for students to go back into that building. That is really enlightening for me, that now we're going to have students back in that building, and they're going to be paying that amount of rent every year, as long as they have the school system, and hopefully it goes up from there. The other thing that I've heard something different about is that we're looking for something in the tune of $50,000, $60,000 this year, and people are taking that times 5 to say it's $300,000. The first thing we're doing on renovating that building is going to be putting in a brand new heating system. The heat that we pay now for that building is hopefully going to be half of what it was. It was in my little office building when I put a new heating system. It was like, wow. So I think that we're not looking for this $50,000 every single year for 5 years. That's going to diminish, and the goal of the committee is to make the heating cost of that building zero, if everything works out. So let's not think of it as a $300,000 investment over the next 5 years. It's 50, and then it will descend from there.
But what about that 2.5 million match that we have to come up with?
We don't have to come up with 2.5 million. $2,329,000 is what we're getting. The match is a 25%, and it's
$776,000, something like that.
to which we already have over 400,000 secured.
Okay, so got it.
But not coming from Texas.
We'll take your check for 300 grand to finish it off.
Got it. Thank you.
That's not coming from taxes.
None of it's coming from taxes.
Federal tax, earmark, but.
Yeah.
Andy, do we end up paying that, the school use for the SU, do we end up paying that in our education budget?
It does come back around, and so
Is that a wash,
they'll
or-
be, oh, no, I don't think it's a wash.
I mean, if the SU is renting from us, doesn't that go in their education budget, which we then have to pay?
Well, we're taking it out of one budget and putting it into another.
Well, I think we have to ask I've heard that the source of those funds was gonna come from their reserves, from the Kirkpatrick Education Fund. Is that right, Girl Robert? Would know.
Trustees?
Yes, well, there's two possible sources. One is from we have money left over from last year, but there are endowments, including a Kirkpatrick fund, and it has not been determined yet, but we will be meeting and discussing it, is that the reason for renting space in the high school is to supplement the normal education, and this would be in line with what the Kirkpatrick Fund was created for. So it may be that, and again, it's not, we're still finalizing the budget, but that this may be coming out of endowment funds for the rental.
And this year, we're, through the school budget, we're paying for 2/3 of the heating of the building already.
Right.
But Robert, isn't it also true that the school is hoping to attract more population with expanded curriculum as opposed to art and a cart?
Right. So, I mean, the bigger picture is that people complain about, well, $50,000, okay? Well, in the bigger picture with the school, we have to attract students. Every student we get tuitioned in, and we have quite a few tuitioned in, is $18,000, on the order of $18,000. So we're hoping by enhancing the curriculum that we will attract more students. We will certainly advertise, the facilities that will become available, if attracting 3 or 4 students a year will affect the bottom line of our budget every year. So you have to take the big picture for the whole community, and of course, that's helping our students too. So.
Dan had his hand up, and then Charm, and then Mike.
Yeah, do I understand right that after 5 years, the building would go to the Valley Hub Inc.?
That's our plan, unless something surprising comes up.
Any strings attached to that, or just be a gift from the town to the nonprofit?
No, we're keeping tabs on what we're spending, and at that time, it'll be determined whether we're selling it to them or not, depending on how successful it is. But yeah, there's full accounting going on what they would owe the town if they chose to take over the building.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay.
Momentarily forgot my question. Would the students be able to use the building while it was under construction?
Yes, because it's in a separate wing. Most of the construction's going to happen on the classroom end.
Eventually down the road, we want to also improve the theater wing, the auditorium wing too, is where the students be now. So years down the road, we may have to figure out the logistics of how to keep programs going and renovate those rooms. So it's not a current issue, but future issue.
So the energy thing, heating is zoned, so like the north wing has its own, auditorium.
Right, that's the
wing
way the
has its
architects are planning it. So the new heating system that Patty's referring to would be in what's now the classroom wing. The current heating plant will still have to be in operation to heat the theater auditorium wing in the building until such time. The old one, right.
And where is that? Is it in the north wing? The machine room with all the furnace in it?
Yeah, right next to the auditorium.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mike, you had something else?
Go ahead. You said that the 50,000, and I get the new heating system, it's gonna go down. So they're spending $50,000 for this year,
Next winter.
just to keep the heat going. Just to
It's
keep,
heat and electricity.
right, but there ain't gonna be anybody in there.
Yeah, the school is gonna be using it next winter. They'll be paying rent as of next winter. And as soon as we get some of the renovations, we have tenants that are chomping at the bit to get in there. So as soon as
Yeah, but isn't the town paying for the operation of the building?
that is the operation, the heat and the electricity.
Electricity.
Yeah.
So why isn't, I know you're gonna put in a new heating system, so why ain't it gonna go up? Because more people are gonna be in there, more electricity, more water.
It's going to be way more efficient than something built in the 1970s.
And insulation that doesn't exist now.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is after you get it all going and everything, it's gonna be less than 50,000 a year?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully.
So if you're renting to a third of it, which is 11,000 square feet, right? I don't want to have more gossip. I got accused of gossip once.
We are renting 2/3 of it, aren't we? We're renting.
What is the square
half?
footage of the?
The floor plate is 30,000 square feet for the whole building.
Oh, because I read somewhere it was 33,000.
Well, 3,000 the mezzanine and the costume level stage.
So the footprint of the building is 30,000?
30,000, yes.
Okay, how much are they renting? RSUD?
The school?
Yeah.
Oh, they're renting the auditorium, the music room, the art room.
And even the shops.
even
You
the-
told me, you told me a third of it.
Yeah, it's not full-time, it's
It's
part-time.
probably-
a couple days a week.
Right, because it's not the home ec room, right?
Right.
Well, they're talking about that in the future. That's gonna have a commercial kitchen.
So what happens to if they're renting it 2 days a week, what happens to the other 3 days a week?
It's open to other rentals as well.
Yeah.
We'll be having people using the building for classes, and the shops, the makerspace, which will be a membership-based operation.
Quintown.
So and Quintown will, we are hoping, they've signed an MOU, will be using the former consumer science or home ec room.
Home ec room.
No, I'm just talking about the space that RSUD is renting.
Yeah, that's the space.
That's their space.
No.
It's not theirs exclusively.
Yeah, they're
Okay.
not renting it 24/7. They're renting it for are they up to 3 days a week, 2 days a week?
It varies by the type room. So the art room, I think, is 2 days a week,
Yeah.
and the shop.
Because it figures out that
2 hours a day.
they're renting it for $1.35 a square foot.
But it's not solely theirs.
It's not full-time, and all the rentals are based on usage, square footage, and fair market value. So part of the VHI responsibility is gonna be managing the various schedules of tenants in there. Some tenants are gonna be the exclusive user of their space.
Okay.
But the school is not exclusively using that space. They do plan, as their curriculum gets developed and their faculty gets developed, to, increasingly use it. But.
I think a lot of these questions could be avoided if somebody would make available the signed agreement between the town and Valley Hub.
Yeah, it's not quite done yet.
That's in the works.
It's in the
So there isn't a signed agreement?
Yes, there are signed agreements. MOUs.
No, he's talking
between
about
us and you.
management agreement.
Oh, management
Yeah,
agreement.
so
Yeah.
that's being worked on right now.
I just saw the draft, the recent
No,
draft.
so there's no signed agreement right now.
They're working
Being
towards.
worked on, that's the intention.
Their lawyer versus our lawyer, hammering that out,
Yes.
yeah.
Complicated.
Yeah.
But there's nothing final.
No.
It's not done yet.
Okay. One more question.
Yep.
Is my thinking right that Well, first I got a question.
Okay.
Before that, is the select board gonna consider putting this up for vote to the voters?
We're gonna get through next week first.
Yeah, we'll get through next week and see what happens then. If the.
Well, what's next week got to do with it?
That's the town meeting. That's when the town votes on the budget, that the 50,000
Well,
is,
but-
yeah.
You know that's gonna pass.
Well.
So if that passes, are we gonna get a chance to vote, or is it?
Dune's retiring,
Yeah,
so, I mean, and we've got, you know.
I don't care who retires, I just asked the question, is it gonna be put out for the
We
voters?
would have to ask the new select board, whoever they may be.
Why can't you guys make that decision?
I'm asking you right now.
The select board hasn't been elected yet.
There's the select board right there.
One out of three.
They're still on the board though.
But by after town meeting, they won't be.
I'm asking my question right now.
You can put
One out of three.
for the board.
One
We're
out
not
of
gonna
three
answer that
people
right now.
will be on the board next week. So like Patty can't say, yes, we're gonna put it to a vote, when the two other members are gonna say, no, you know?
Why
so-
not? They're sitting right there.
No, he's leaving.
I don't care if they're leaving, they're sitting there right now and they're.
But it doesn't,
They're in that position right now, they can make
Right.
that decision.
but they can't before town meeting anyway.
Why?
They don't have
Well, let's, hold on a second.
Because of
Order.
We need a ballot.
Yeah, I don't know why you can't answer that question.
Well,
Thanks.
We choose not to answer that,
What's that?
we choose not to answer that question right now until
Why?
after town meeting and after we have, our next select board in place.
It has nothing to do with that.
Well, that's what we choose.
So with respect, if, I understand that you're saying that you're gonna wait till the new select board is elected, which is a town meeting. Then that new select board will have a discussion as to whether or not this should be put to a vote or not. And that select board will make that decision, from which will flow whether it's a vote or not, right?
After town meeting, when we will have heard from more voters in town.
Yeah.
No, I just don't see why, you're all three of you are on the select board right now. And my question to the three of you is, are you gonna put it out for vote?
I think the answer is they don't wanna make that decision right now.
Yeah, so we don't wanna answer that.
But Mike,
I get that.
there'll be more people at town meetings, so they can get more feedback.
Town meeting has nothing to do with the repurposing,
this
except
is-
the 52,000.
This is not even on our agenda, so it's not a decision that we could make right now. It's not on the agenda. So technically, we can't say anything right now.
But Patty, would you say it's some kind of official statement that this will be addressed by the next? Or are you just kicking it down the road and what they decide is what it's gonna be?
I'd like to hear from the more people at town meeting.
So you see this as a matter also with input
I
from
mean,
the town at the
are
town
we
meeting?
supposed to be getting feedback from our voters, our townspeople? Then we're gonna wait until next week when we hear from more people at town meeting.
You made the decision to go with it, why can't you make the decision if it's going up for vote?
Because that's not to.
One other point of information, the folks who are renting space, a bunch of folks in town have signed MOUs.
Right.
They want to rent the offices and spaces once they're finished being renovated. The checks on those rentals go to the town of Rochester. So if you say, I want to put off this decision, or I don't want to do the redevelopment project this way, you are also telling thousands of dollars of potential revenue for the town, which could offset future heating bills and other costs related to the high school. You're telling all of us to go stuff it.
There could be other options.
Could be, but this is the one that I signed a contract
Bring
for.
on.
The grant could not come too.
Name one option.
So basically, you three are playing kick the can down the street right now with that question.
There's been a lot of kicking the can down this. The whole reason that we had to vote for yes or no to buy the building, it was because we didn't have the total clarity on what the plan was gonna be for the building, but we needed to be able to make that decision, to move forward about whether or not the town would buy the building.
Right, no,
So
I
it's
understand that.
trying not to put disinformation out there, but to be clear. And in hindsight, should should it have been a vote to, to buy the building and do the project, then maybe, but the project wasn't as developed
We didn't
as
even
it
get our
was.
FEMA clearance until December.
Yeah,
Which is after the vote. I mean, there were so many things that we had to wait to get from the officials who could give us green lights, green lights, green lights.
All right. John, you got your hand up?
Yeah, I just have one last thing to say just before I leave, and it's gonna be on the whole repurposing part of it. We voted yes for you to take it from Stockbridge out of their hands. We did not all vote yes for you guys to repurpose it. Again, I have a petition. I'll give you a copy of what that petition says, but I will continue my door-to-door, and I will see you on the town meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
I got just one, my original question.
Your original question.
Sideline there. Am I right in thinking that if the petition, either his or somebody else starts one, if they get 5% of the registered voters, they can force a vote?
I believe so, 5%. Yeah,
Huh?
yeah, 5%.
That's what I thought, 5%.
Which is how many people?
But that would have to be a specific petition saying,
Right.
not that
Okay.
petition, but like a specific petition saying, I want to vote, right?
On a specific date.
On
I
a
want to vote
specific
on a
date.
specific
Yeah,
item on a specific
item, like it has to be word, yeah, right,
Right.
yeah.
So, this is saying petition to stop the purchase of Rochester, so that's basically to
Yeah, because
undo the vote.
the purchase that you're doing is not a legal purchase, because we did not vote to yes, everybody, for yes to purchase it and repurpose it. You
What-
hid
what
that,
made it illegal?
and people say they did not, even person on your Zoom tonight said they voted yes because to get it out of the hands, but not for the repurposing. So I will leave you at that.
Right.
Should take out the illegal part though.
Okay. You do know that the select board had power to just go ahead and buy the building and enact this project without going to the voters too.
Yes, and I understand that, but I also understand where our economic times are, and there's a lot more consolidation coming down the pike.
Yep.
We're not gonna be able to afford it in this town.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Have a good evening.
There was nothing illegal about the vote.
No.
I have a hand up on Zoom.
You have a hand up on
Who's
Zoom?
already spoken,
Yeah.
so I don't know what your rules are, but.
Well, we've been letting everybody else talk multiple times. I think we'll
Bring 'em
go
on.
one more time on Zoom, yeah.
Here we go.
Hey, Robert. Are you there?
Passed out.
I can see your hands up and your computer is unmuted.
Going once.
Okay.
Going twice.
This isn't on me, kids.
No, okay. I would entertain a
I did my
motion to close this pre-town meeting.
Soon I'll be taking nominations for moderator.
I second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all
for that.
Thank you all for your input and interaction. And that's what makes it a town.
A little bit, so I'm gonna unmute us.
All right.
And we have 15 participants on Zoom that are here for the select board meeting, and I think you're good to go.
Okay, welcome back everyone for scene 2 of tonight's select board meeting. So we're going to, we've already confirmed the open meeting law conformity, so I'll skip that, and we're gonna start right off with the prior meeting minutes from February 10th, which I read and they seemed good to me.
Me too, I read them too.
I'd move to approve them.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, alrighty. The next on the agenda is to approve the January treasurer's report. And thank you once again for putting that together. And I would move to approve.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, okay. And there's one for you to sign there. Okay, we have an application for a tobacco license from the Skip Mart.
Seems like they have one every meeting.
Yeah, I say there've been a lot.
It's the time of year that
Looks
they're all.
like the sign is going up
So,
tonight too.
I would move to approve.
Second that?
All in favor?
Aye.
And we don't sign that anymore. That's
We don't
just-
endorse
just-
smoking, but they can sell tobacco
Yeah, they can
stuff.
do it.
I
Yep.
have to, do it on
Yep.
the web.
Yep.
That you approved it.
All right, we have the Pierce Hall Community Center Town Rental Contract. They are asking for a signature for that. And so this is sort of the daily rental contract for 2025.
That's basically they're allowing any town function,
Event.
any town events can be held at the Pierce Hall
At no charge.
at no charge. Just
But we just have to sign a contract.
you just have to
with
sign
it.
a contract
Sign
every
a
year.
contract for zero. I like that. Okay. I'd move to execute this contract.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay. And we have a certificate of compliance for town road and bridge standards and network inventory, and that's with the state.
Yes, for V-Trans,
For
something that we
V-Trans.
do every
Yeah,
year,
every
so we
year,
can get our
basically.
structure grants.
Yeah, structure grants, so I move to approve that.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. See, Mike, usually it's like really easy. Stuff, and you don't have
And this is still a lot of people for a town meeting.
Hold on,
For a
Robert.
select board meeting.
Yeah, all right.
All of us sign this one?
Okay. Yep. Then we have a town park application for the farmer's market, May 30th through October 3rd from 3 to 6, and this coming up here. And I think it's a great addition to the town, and I'm happy to have it. Is that what you're here to speak about?
Sure.
Yeah.
That's why I've been here the whole time. Yeah, I mean, no, we appreciate using the park. We try to, maintain as best we can. I go through and pick up garbage afterwards and before. Some weeks are worse than others, goodness. But it's a great thing for the town, and I really am honored to run it.
No, we're glad to have you there. So
I would just like to say one thing, when you're setting up week after week after week, that you try to move the booths just a little bit so that it just doesn't have a worn out pattern in there.
Okay.
But if you could just move.
Just a little bit.
Just move a little bit left, a little bit right.
So I don't actually map out where everyone is. So we kind of have a general, and people know to not put their spots in the same spot, but I don't mark them, so I can't really
And that's okay.
I can't really say I can't see where it was last week because there's literally no marks.
But they will know. But there are marks, and
I mean, not
if
that
they
I've
would
seen.
just move a little bit forward, backward, left, and right. That would help everybody.
We'll try our best. I mean, I've been running it for 8 years now, and I've not noticed anything, but.
And you're going to be right in front of the monument again, right?
Yeah, I mean, we
Not
try
down
to-
front.
No, we
Yeah.
can't be down front. It doesn't
Yeah.
work. We have too many vendors now.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work because with the, it doesn't work.
So I'd move to grant permission for the use of the park to the farmer's market.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a good thing.
All righty. And now we kicked this down the road last meeting about the name for the road on the Gendron subdivision up there, or development. It's not a subdivision, I guess. Approved. They got two options: Cushman Ridge Road or Cushman Vista Road.
Well,
Those came from
This came from one of the landowners.
one of the landowners.
Well, since it's not on
even on
Cushman, why
Cushman.
don't we go with Cushman Vista?
Why don't we look at what it used to be called?
Which was what?
Poker
No, but
lot.
they say that they can see Cushman.
I
from where
suggested
they are.
it.
It used to be a sheep,
I sold them.
summer
that
sheep
Poker Run.
field.
Poker Run? They didn't like that?
They
No.
didn't say, so they came back with this. I don't know.
Yeah, I would think of Cushman Ridge as actually being
Yeah,
there.
I think it's a little confusing,
Yeah.
actually.
Cushman Vista is late.
Cushman
Cushman's
Road
in our
itself already
business.
exists.
How about, I didn't see Cushman from here.
I think that's what they said they.
I see.
911 address,
Yeah, yeah,
Yes, that's very true.
yeah.
because you already got a Cushman Road, and now you're making it, and it's not even in the same vicinity.
Same, yeah. it's
How
not-
about just Vista,
It'd be different, like if you were on Hawk and you're going off from it.
Vista Road,
You know, the road really,
Vista Lane,
to go up
Vista
for
Run.
fire rescue, you know, you're gonna be confused.
Vista cul-de-sac.
Uncle.
Say Cushman, you're gonna think Cushman.
Vista,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
want dinner.
I wouldn't say that Cushman,
No?
I'm hungry too.
Church Vista. You see the
Vista Road?
My favorite.
Yeah.
Let's drop the Cushman,
see
just
what
go with
my map
Go with
Vista.
Vista Road.
Anything like that
Or Ridge
different
Road,
would
I
be
think they
fun.
like the Ridge
We like the Ridge,
first.
Ridge Road, but it's
Yeah.
not really
Vista
a ridge,
Ridge?
it's just going straight up a hill.
Yeah.
Vista Ridge.
Rocky Run.
Slippery slope.
Four-wheel drive.
Four-wheel drive, no.
Maybe we should go back to them and just say.
Just go back to them and say Cushman is
feel
not
like we're
gonna
kicking the
work,
can
be this-
again.
be less confusing, yeah,
Yeah.
because it is, they're gonna live on it, they might as well have some, but, yeah, I'd say, all right, we'll table that
We
one.
like the word Vista, but not
Yeah.
Cushman.
Vista, but yeah, Cushman is confusing, yeah.
I got it.
Okay,
Vista View.
Pretty cool.
all right. Nobody is here from the library unless they're on Zoom?
No,
Nope. Is there anybody from the highway on Zoom?
there is not, no.
No.
They sleep in.
All right, Terry, it's up to you.
Yeah,
Anything?
I get one manhole we have a lot of problems with. I mean, I've flushed it 3 times so far this year, and it's because they aren't flushing the proper products
They're not-
down.
They're flushing things down that they shouldn't be.
Yeah, I mean, it's plugging up, and we did it in October and did it again, what, a couple weeks ago?
Yeah.
Just before this big storm. Cooter helped me one night, did it. It's Intertraditions, and I think you guys should write them a letter saying they need to put down the proper stuff. I mean, it's not breaking down, it's not regular toilet paper, because I'm sticking a fire hose in there at 200 pounds pressure, and it's not even breaking up.
And you're pretty sure it's just,
I think it's those wipey
Oh.
things that don't break down. It's, we went through this a few years ago,
Right,
had
we
big
did.
problems with it, and then now this last year or so, it's picked back up again.
mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know how you can go 2 or 3 years and not have any problems, and then all of a sudden we're doing this every 3 months.
COVID.
And
Everybody was gone.
I'm not really impressed
stopped
with it,
flushing during
and
COVID.
I think we need to start charging them.
Well, nobody was in.
It's not a fun job, I mean, because it kind of sprays up quite a little bit when you're trying to break it up.
Yeah.
Funny.
Yeah, it's not cool.
So I think you guys need to write them a letter.
Yeah.
Because I spoke to them, they haven't done much about it, so. I think we need to start charging them if this is what it's gonna do.
Okay,
I can send them an email right now.
yeah, you know the address.
Mahar.
Yeah, Mahar. Yeah. All right, okay.
We should have proof of that at the office, do you think?
That's it.
Yeah, send it to the office too, though,
It
so we
is for
have
me,
record.
I get some sick
Yep.
of that.
Is, we have Jeff Gephardt online there?
No.
Nope, no Jeff, no, too late, okay. How, got any grant updates for us?
No, nope, and
Nope.
if I did, I may pass tonight.
We got any updates from the high school repurposing committee tonight?
If anybody does, I'll give you $10 to bring it to Monday.
Okay, we've done enough of that already tonight, I think, yeah.
It's not minimum wage.
No,
For
no,
10
that
bucks,
was,
I might just raise my hand.
all right, we're back into public comment. I believe that Robert had something that he wanted to say, but he didn't get He
didn't unmute.
He didn't unmute enough.
Okay.
So I encouraged him to use either the phone or the computer, but not both. It might lessen the confusion on
That's
his end of the thing.
Yep,
Yeah.
I do see that he was on both, and now he's just on his phone, and
All right.
is not muted, so he should be all set.
Okay, Robert.
The reason I was on both is because typically one drops off. So with regards to that, in the February 13th newspaper, I was quoted by Martha Slater saying that municipal law for addressing taxpayers' conflict of interest, asking if the town had picked the liaison. That comment and quote that Martha Slater put in the Randolph Herald is not true. This municipal law was passed and put into law on January 1st, 2025. I was just trying to make the taxpayers and residents of both towns aware that it's Act 171, and Act 171 was never mentioned by Martha, and then I was quoted as saying it's addressing taxpayer conflict of interest. What is taxpayer conflict of interest? So the whole quote was inverted. And I asked Tim Calabro, who owns the paper, or still does, to correct that. And I emailed Martha, I emailed Tim, I begged them for a correction. Not one nor the other responded to just to say, we're not going to correct it, or we corrected it. But there's questions about what goes in the newspaper and what is recorded on Orca. And I would recommend every town member, select board members of any town that uses Zoom and uses Orca to listen to Orca live minutes and then compare them to this paper. I think it's called the Herald or the Valley News. I don't know what it's called anymore. But I want to make that clear, and I want to put into the minutes that I have spoken with a misquote by Martha Slater. So if Martha's still on the line, can she confirm that she will do that?
She's not still on the line. She is. She is? Yep.
Oh, no, I'm asking for Martha to respond, not Patty Harvey.
Martha?
I think Martha fell asleep.
Well.
Yes, Martha's not there.
Can you hear me?
There you go.
Yeah, Martha, are you going to correct?
Yes, I mentioned, excuse me, Robert, I mentioned it to Tim, and he said he would print your letter to the editor, and I believe he thought that was what you wanted.
No, they're separate issues. The quote that you put forth to the paper was about addressing taxpayers' conflict of interest. It is the conflict of interest with regards to elected and appointed officials under Act 171. And so you didn't mention Act 171, and then you misquoted me.
Okay, so
So
that
what
would
do
be.
we do now?
So now, and when Martha reports on today's meeting or tonight's meeting, she can make that correct statement then. That would be a simple way to satisfy this.
Robert, I obviously misunderstood you. I apologize if I quoted you incorrectly. I spoke to my boss about it, and I thought the issue was settled. I apologize. I will mention.
No, it was not. And if it was settled, I thought Tim would have had the common courtesy to call me and say, Robert, there's been a conflict with regards to the letter to the editor and my quote. People are asking me, Robert, what is the taxpayer's conflict of interest? Which is, if you can define that, send me a note and I'll maybe.
Okay, no, I think we've clarified that now.
Yes, I think we have.
Yeah. So.
Okay. Well, listen. Hey, Martha. It's a gold star for you to sit through the last 3 hours. God bless you.
It's my job.
Yep. Okay. All right. All right. That was short. Anyone on Zoom that has anything they'd like to speak about?
I do not have any raised hands.
No.
I dare say we're all set.
Okay, then I would like to say it's been a pleasure being on the select board for the last 18 years. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
He's gonna be back next week.
Yeah. Oh, I still got
auditorium.
one more meeting to go to. It should be a doozy.
Nice try, nice try getting out of that one.
All right. Okay. Well, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.